You're listening to the Third Down Squad podcast, the best international news podcast for the National Football League. We're your hosts, Derek, Josh, and Toby. Let's get you ready for new set downs on Sunday.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Third Down Squad podcast. It is now officially the 25th episode of the Third Down Squad. You heard that here first. It has been about almost half a year since we have started this podcast. We really appreciate everybody who has joined us along the way. Special shout out to Seth. He's obviously been the one that has been most loyal to this channel so far. We appreciate it, man. We appreciate everybody else who has helped us along the way. We look forward to continue doing this. And just another quick note before we get started, I wanted to mention that the ESPN just brought out their early Super Bowl favorites for next year. Obviously, New England tops it all at number 1. The Rams at number 2. Number 3 coming in are the Saints at number 3. You have Kansas City at number 4, and you have the Colts and the 5th spot. So that's kind of a new thing for Colts fans to hear.
ESPN cares about us.
Yeah, ESPN's actually caring about the Colts for once. It's amazing. So anyway, the topics we're going to get into today are the NFL draft recap, bringing you a bunch of different topics about that, the Tyreek Hill update, and our top 5 teams in the NFL, our way too early predictions. So first, we're going to get into the NFL draft, which happened a week ago. I was personally really happy with the draft, other than a few things. I pretty much got a lot of my picks correct. I had a lot of different things, both in the live stream draft and in a couple of my mock drafts. I think a lot of people went in a lot of different places everyone thought could go there. But first, we're going to talk about what most people have been talking about ever since the draft started, is the quarterbacks. Obviously, Kyler Murray going number 1. We all kind of figured that was happening. Toby thought it would be a mix-up, but that didn't quite happen. And then we saw Daniel Jones surprisingly getting picked up by the New York Giants, Haskins falling into the lap of the Washington Redskins, and then Drew Lock getting picked in the early second round by the Denver Broncos. So, guys, let's start with let's just go with each of these quarterbacks in order, and we'll just kind of bring the analysis to each one. Toby, let's start with Kyler Murray. What do you think? What do you think of this pick by Arizona?
Yeah, I've said it on this podcast before. I don't think Kyler Murray is really the guy that really fits into the NFL. I'm kind of worried about his size and body weight. So I'd be a little bit cautious about Kyler Murray if I'm the Arizona Cardinals. I personally would have preferred if they kept Rosen there for another year as his backup, kind of as protection in case Kyler Murray gets hurt. But I mean, Cliff Kingsbury was pretty open about what he wants from that team, and that is that the team is going to be led by Kyler Murray as their quarterback. So I think he fits into the scheme pretty well to what Cliff Kingsbury played at Texas. So you're pretty much looking at a pretty good combo of coach and quarterback from their playing style. But like I said, I'm just cautious about Kyler Murray. I just think he's a little bit too small, a little bit too light for those defensive players, front 7 players, especially in the NFC West. So I just want to see if Kyler Murray can make it through the entire season first.
Josh, what do you got to add to that?
I still kind of I get why they got him, but I just don't like how they just gave up on Rosen just as fast, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, to me, this whole time, when Cliff Kingsbury took over as the Cardinals head coach and he heard the name Kyler Murray, I just picture his ears perking and saying, we need to get him. But then, everybody else in the front office of the Cardinals is but we need a better defense. We need more weapons. We need an offensive line. No, we need him. You know? And you could have gotten Nick Bosa or Quinnen Williams, to help bolster that defensive line for the future. But you go for relatively short quarterback who really didn't want to run during any of the pro days or the combine or anything like that. I'm with Toby on this one. I just think that his stature as a quarterback is what's going to hold him back in the long run when it comes to playing for 15, 20 years in the NFL. It's just this defenses are now built around keeping an eye on the quarterback. And if somebody hits Kyler Murray because he's lower to the ground, so that means that defensive players are going to have to get lower to the ground, which could end up either hurting the defensive player or Kyler Murray, because the defensive player is going to have his helmet down and is either going to get a concussion by hitting Kyler Murray's helmet or spearing Kyler Murray. So it's one of those wait and see kind of things.
Yeah, and Derek, sorry, before you start, Josh, you mentioned Josh Rosen, and I read an interview that somebody did. I think it was ESPN as well. That did an interview with Brett Hundley, the now backup quarterback to Kyler Murray in Arizona, who also went to Cal just like Josh Rosen did, and he compared the kind of play scheme, the offensive scheme of the new Cardinals coaches to the one that they had in Cal, especially the one that was in place when Josh Rosen was there in his first year, which was his most successful year in college. So I think it would have really fit Josh Rosen a lot better than what they had as a scheme last season. So I'm with you, Josh. I hate to see Josh Rosen just being dropped after 1 year and not giving him a chance in another scheme that actually numbers show that he's better in than the one that he was last year. So yeah, Derek, sorry for cutting you off there, but...
No, you're good. I agree with everything you guys said, and it kind of brought me to that point of, giving up on Josh Rosen. You had Steve Smith going on the NFL Network saying Josh Rosen is a wuss for going out and just going to another team because he's afraid of competition. Are you kidding me? You don't draft a number one guy after you just spent your first pick last year getting Josh Rosen. You don't go and get another quarterback at number one to just have Josh Rosen compete for the starting job. That's not how that works. You didn't invest all the time and the resources to draft a quarterback just to say, oh, well, if he gets the job, then that's what we want. No, it's not that. You obviously don't have faith in Rosen. That's why you're going with another guy to replace him. I mean, shout out to Josh Rosen for having to deal with all this stuff, and having to go to a completely another team because the organization didn't have faith in him, and now everybody else is trying to dog on him for not wanting to be competitive. I don't know about you guys, but if I got brought in to do the job and then you only gave me 1 year to try and do that with little help, and then you're going to go out there and give this other guy no help and think he can do it better, well, see you later. I mean, That's not my problem. I mean, and it's the same thing too. This isn't the Big 12, Arizona. This isn't Kyler Murray's usual, I'm going to throw for 350 yards and run for 150 every game against Big 12 defenses. That isn't how this works. Defenses actually play defense. You're not going to be able to scramble out of the pocket all the time and make these plays that he does with his feet. Sure, he'll make a couple plays with his feet, no question about it. But he's not going to be what he was in college because he has to adapt his game. Whether or not he can do that, I don't know. He does have a good work ethic. I do like his ability to adapt to teams. I think he'll be good. But this is just, again, another one of those wild card picks that, you hope it works out. But there were so many other things they could have gone with that number one pick to try and do that. And not to mention getting Byron Murphy in the second round with that first pick. I mean, you could have gotten something way better than that. You could have gone an offensive lineman. That's what you should have done with that second pick and that second round. But, that, again, is not up to me.
Yeah, and it wasn't probably even the best cornerback on the board at that point. Anyway.
At that point, no. But anyway, now we're going to move to the number 6 pick. To everyone's surprise, the Duke quarterback Daniel Jones selected 6th instead of what most people thought was going to be Dwayne Haskins. You saw it all over social media, Giants fans going absolutely nuts and not in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, I'm going to give you the honor of starting this. Please tell me what was going through the Giants' mind to select Daniel Jones.
I think what it was Gettleman saying, hold my beer. The Jets are going to look good now because, I mean, they clearly see something in Daniel Jones that we're all not seeing. And I think I saw something where it looked like where they had Daniel Jones and they said he looks like Eli's stunt double.
Well, I will tell you this, that one of the reasons, and there's a couple different reasons as to why they picked him, but one of the reasons they drafted him is that he has a personal relationship with the Manning family. So, the Manning family really indirectly runs that franchise now. So it's like, if you have a personal relationship with that family, then, they're just going to line up to you.
Yeah, and he had a horrible completion percentage.
It's not even his completion percentage that was bad. It's just like look at his interceptions.
Yeah.
Just look at his interceptions.
Everybody's like, look at his completion rate. Yeah, but to the other team. I mean, he is very inaccurate on film.
Yes.
He forces balls when he shouldn't be, and he's not thinking behind the pocket.
Right.
Now, just to think that old man Eli can just change everything because he goes like, hey, why don't you come over to my family barbecue like you always do? It's not going to work like that. This Giants team is not built to handle another potential scrub of a quarterback. They should, like I said, they should have gone with Dwayne Haskins right there, a guy who is ready to take over whenever Eli says, all right, your turn, kid. But no, Eli's going to stay longer. He's going to risk his health, all to make sure that Danny Jones right there can freaking learn how to throw a football properly underneath the Manning's eyes,
Right.
Like if you just say, like, I got drafted 6th because Peyton Manning says I know how to throw a football. If Peyton Manning told me I knew how to throw a football, I'd say, all right, am I going 1st overall? No, I'm going to go in the 2nd or 3rd round. Because it's all about talent.
To be honest, he probably shouldn't have even been drafted. I mean, there's so many people that were saying, and I hate to break it into it. I'll let you finish and let Toby get into it. But we saw Dwayne Haskins laugh at the Giants passing him up.
Oh, yeah.
Chris Carter even said, and I hate to bring the race card into it. I hate to do it. I hate when people do it. But the problem is that if a black quarterback of any place goes anywhere, has those numbers, and you tell me he's going to be the 6th overall pick, I would laugh at you. I'd laugh at you. He probably wouldn't even get drafted. I mean, it's another one of those things where it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's exactly the only reason. All right, so Josh, please finish your thing. I'll wait until my very end.
All right, now to end it all up, what this just proves is that if you and Peyton Manning and Eli Manning go mini golfing on a Saturday night, you're guaranteed a 1st-round draft pick. There you go.
That's a true statement. Toby, go ahead.
I just want to say, I think it was 1.5 months ago, exactly that same spot right here, where I said the Giants are going to draft Daniel Jones because he has a connection to the Manning family. So you heard it here first, and it exactly happened like that. I didn't think it was going to happen at 6. I said they were going to trade down probably, or after that they actually got the 17th pick. I think they didn't have that at that time. So, but picking at a number 6. And first of all, if you have seen that press conference of David Gettleman after that first draft day, and him saying, oh, we didn't pick him at 17 because I know for a fact that 2 teams would have picked him up before us. With Dwayne Haskins still on the board, please tell me which 2 teams would have needed a quarterback like Daniel Jones and before your 17th
which
pick.
Would have been that big of a need.
We already know.
Josh.
I was to say, we already know that the Dolphins would have been out of it because they were talking to the Cardinals.
Yeah, true.
The Giants
right, exactly.
Jones.
Yeah, and if you're leaving it on the board, the Redskins are not gonna take Daniel Jones before they pick Dwayne Haskins. So there are no other teams. You knew he is gonna fall to you at 17. So, and I was looking at the Giants subreddit just today and read the thread about what actual Giants fans, since nobody of us is really that deep into the Giants, what they really think about it. And they all say, okay, if you want Daniel Jones that much, do not come out in a press conference and say, you know for a fact that two teams would have picked him ahead of you. Just say, okay, he's our guy. We liked him, and we picked him at 6 because we think he's just that good. He's our guy, and put faith in him. And not put on some excuse, okay, I know for a fact that two other teams put it on him. You're just hurting yourself, and it puts you in a bad spot with your fans as well. So, and to the actual player, Daniel Jones, I see it the same way as Josh does. We know his stats from college. It's not the most accurate thrower on the field. I'd probably say, he might be the next Nathan Peterman, but might be a little bit harsh, but it's just
a little harsh.
No,
if you look at the numbers, that's what it looks like.
Right.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna be even more harsh, you gotta compare him to Scott Tolzien then.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
Please don't.
And there's one other thing. You don't have Odell Beckham anymore in New York. He would have helped him a lot, but okay, you still got Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard, but that's probably at least one tier lower than OBJ ranks as a wide receiver. So
there's Golden Tate.
Yeah, but still, he's not in that tier as well. So
yeah. I mean, they have decent receivers, but none of them are elite tier level, or even above average tier level.
There is not one receiver there that you'd say, okay, he can elevate a bad quarterback to being at least decent. That's what they're missing right now, and that's what OBJ gave them. But now, of course, he's with Cleveland. But yeah, Derek, what's your thoughts on Daniel Jones?
Okay, so Josh brought up the first point. Has a connection with Peyton Manning. That was the first reason and Eli Manning. That's the first reason why they drafted him. Second one, Toby mentioned it, that he believed it was an excuse, but we know he's lying about it. But it's saying that we know for a fact that two teams would have drafted him if we didn't. Now, here's the third thing that kind of just irritates me. I don't know if it's really a reason as to why they drafted him, but here's the reason that it irritates me. David Gettleman couldn't even definitively tell you in his press conference that Daniel Jones would start right away. They said he might start in 3 years when Eli Manning is done. Are you kidding me? So you picked a quarterback at the 6th pick, which genuinely most people would have starting right away. But you're going to say, we're going to wait 2 to 3 years until Eli Manning is officially done and then play him? I mean, I can't even do it. It's like, it surprised me at first. It was laughable, but now it's just kind of like irritating because, again, it just fed into the argument that they weren't looking for talent. They were just looking for their one guy that they liked because he had a connection with the team. Look, I can tell you his stats. He has 3,000 more yards than Dwayne Haskins, okay? But he also played 3 more seasons than Dwayne Haskins. He only has 6 more touchdowns thrown than Dwayne Haskins for playing 3 years versus 1. His completion percentage is way worse. It's 10% worse. He's thrown 29 interceptions in 3 years. Dwayne Haskins threw 8. And Daniel Jones did not play the level of competition that Dwayne Haskins did. Duke was the 7th ranked team. If you would have told me that Duke would have been 4th in their conference, or even better, then I would say Daniel Jones had a lot to do with it. But Dwayne Haskins had every right to laugh at the Giants because this was the stupidest move of the whole draft. I don't understand the concept of it. And again, like Toby said, was that if they had just come out and said, listen, we like Daniel Jones. He's a friend of ours, or he's a friend of the Mannings. The Mannings like him as a person and as a player and all these other things. then you could have built your argument based off that. It may not have been a great argument, but it's a good argument because it's solid and it's factual. But instead, you're going to your press conference the next day making up lies. We know you're lying. It's ridiculous. And I know I'm getting too emotional about it, but like, Dwayne Haskins is my dude. That should have been his shot. That should have been his. But of course, you know, I have to give it to the Jersey boy over here who comes into the Big Apple. Even people in their own stadium were watching the draft and booing the decision because they had no idea it was coming. No idea. So
how much you want to bet Eli Manning was in the war room going like, yeah, get Daniel Jones. We got a corn dog together. But I like Dwayne Haskins. But he's threatening my job, Gettleman. Get Daniel Jones. Okay, you're right, Eli. You're the guy.
Like, even then, if you just made Dwayne Haskins wait 2 years, so what? At least you have the better quarterback of the two. But anyway, now we're gonna move on from that before I blow a gasket to the team that actually did get Dwayne Haskins at the 15th pick, where we were talking about it all draft day, where the Redskins were prepared to make a monumental jump into the top 5 to guarantee they got Dwayne Haskins. Well, they didn't have to do anything. They got Dwayne Haskins at number 15 because the Miami Dolphins, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Giants, and the Cardinals, they all missed on him. And Broncos didn't go for him there at the number 10 spot anyway, as they traded back. Because they obviously thought Drew Lock would be the next best thing, which they got in the second round. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Toby, we'll start with you again on this. How big was this for the Redskins to get this player?
It was huge for them. They didn't have a quarterback before they drafted Dwayne Haskins. Their only chance was that Colt McCoy gets back to being healthy at the start of the season, and yeah, he's injured right now. They don't know if they get Alex Smith back at any point. So, of course, you got to go with a quarterback. And when a guy like Dwayne Haskins just happens to fall into your lap with the 15th overall pick, I mean, that's the biggest gift you're going to get. I mean, they were thinking about trading up because they thought, no way Dwayne Haskins is going to fall to us. And here you are sitting there not getting a trade done. And, well, Dwayne Haskins is still on the board. Well done by the Redskins. Only problem I see with the Redskins right now, they have a great quarterback. The only problem is he doesn't have anybody to throw the ball to. That's the big problem there is in Washington. Dwayne Haskins threw for 50 touchdowns at Ohio State, but he actually had receivers there. In Washington, there's nothing. So
I mean, he's got a decent collection of running backs and an average offensive line, but the problem is if you still don't have receivers to throw the ball to, I mean, he's limited. Basically.
Yeah, he's got Reed as his tight end if he can stay healthy for one season, but at wide receiver, you're as thin as you can get in the NFL right now with the Washington Redskins. So, but I believe that he's quite the opposite in that regard as Daniel Jones, that he can actually make a wide receiver better than a wide receiver actually is, because he has the accuracy. And as Josh has often said on this podcast, he's just throwing like he's on easy mode. So he can make about any throw there is, and he can throw the ball into tight windows. So he might actually be the guy that helps a lot of the wide receivers they have right now to get better than they are. He won't throw for 50 touchdowns this season. Let's be real about that.
No question about it. I mean, I would be insanely shocked if he would even get to 30. Honestly, I'd be insanely shocked.
I'd say he's gonna be around 30 this season. That's about the ballpark I'd put him with the Redskins with what he can do. I'd say somewhere between 25 and 35 touchdowns this season. That's about the range that I see Dwayne Haskins going. But yeah, he's helping them a lot for sure.
Well, since Joe Theismann gave him his blessing to wear the number 7, I think that was a pretty good pick.
Yeah.
You got the legendary Joe Theismann saying, "Take my number."
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just surprised because I could just picture people like Dan Snyder just sitting there ready to grab the phone, and then they're waiting and go like, "Hold it, wait, he's still there," you know? And then he goes like, "Are you sure?" "Yeah, he's right there. The Giants just took Daniel Jones. Okay, let's just sit here and wait," you know? And slowly but surely, Haskins made it to him. And I don't know about you guys, but I love a good revenge story. And this is going to be the greatest revenge story plot for like the next 15, maybe 20 years, you know, because if you're growing up a Giants fan and the Giants don't even want you, they want somebody that Peyton Manning did a State Farm commercial for or something like that, you know, then yeah, they're going to take Dwayne Haskins. And that laugh should have sounded more like a maniacal laugh in the ears of Giants fans, because that is more of like one of those evil villain ha 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 ha.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah,
kind of
their first matchup is in week 4, by the way. Just to anybody who's
I
watching
cannot
week
wait.
4.
I got my calendar set for it. I can't wait.
Yeah, and you know what? That shaped the Giants' 17th pick in Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah.
You know, because they want to get somebody to hit Dwayne Haskins. But all in all, I can't wait to watch the Redskins play, because you're going to see pure anger at the Giants with each throw Dwayne Haskins makes, whether it's incomplete or complete. You're going to tell there's a lot of fiery emotion behind that throw. And from here on out, the Redskins might have just found their franchise guy. Now, only time will tell from here, but it's looking like that because Joe Theismann believes it so much. The number 7 is coming down from that banner and back into the NFL.
Right. Yeah, it's like they never actually retired the number. It was just like secretly never allowed to really be used, you know, because of Joe Theismann. But I'll say this before I even get into any reason as anything about Haskins. I don't know about you guys, and you guys have a different opinion on this. I'm actually okay if the Redskins, for a couple weeks in the season, decided to start Case Keenum at the start of the season. I would be okay with that, just for the sake of if Dwayne Haskins doesn't quite get the hang of it right away. Because, I mean, it could be like a Cleveland situation, even though Cleveland should have started Baker Mayfield right away. That's why he drafted him number 1 for that exact reason. But I think that, like, as Toby said, he doesn't have many receivers right now. And I think that Washington themselves kind of know that even though we got our franchise guy, we know that for a fact, even though we have him now, we may not have the weapons necessary to help him this year. So let's try not to get him hurt too early. Let's try to, like, you know, ease him into this, because we know that this season's not the season that we're gonna win it all. Even though, and I doubt that they would, because, you know, Philly's getting stronger, the Cowboys are getting stronger. So, I mean, I'm perfectly okay with them saying Case Keenum and Dwayne Haskins share some time at the beginning of the season, and maybe at the end of the season, if things are going well, then Dwayne Haskins takes over full time. I'm okay with that, you know, just to kind of get everything under his belt. But you guys are right. He was right when he said the league done screwed up. And the Giants, he was referring more to the Giants than anything else, because now the Giants should be scared, because not only did you not draft him, you just gave him a motivational reason to want to beat you so bad. He will be in the film room every hour of every day the week they play the Giants to ensure that he's ready for you and ready to beat you with everything he's got. And like Toby said earlier, that Dwayne Haskins has the ability to make other players around him better. Well, and I think it's not only because of his intangibles, but I think it's also something that a lot of people, you know, only true NFL quarterback people know, is that leadership is another thing. In a situation where you have a group of wide receivers that may not know their identity, and if you have a quarterback that kind of like gives them a sense of purpose, gives them a sense of, okay, I know we're not where we're at right now, but I'm not going to blame you guys for how this is going to go. We're going to go out and compete. We're going to do our best, and we're going to leave the results up to God, and we'll just let that go. I think that's what Dwayne Haskins brings. He brings that competitive fire, and he brings that leadership that I think the rest of these quarterbacks don't have as much of. And I think that is another reason why this Dwayne Haskins pick was so perfect for the Redskins. You may not, I mean, let's face it, it's even if they had gone all receivers, all other things like that, would you still trust Case Keenum with that situation? I mean, that's the thing. It's harder to find your franchise quarterback than it is to find a couple of B-level receivers that can do enough for your quarterback until you find that big one. So I think this was a great move by the Redskins, and I applaud it so much.
You know what? There's one last thing I wanted to say before we move on. We have another revenge story with a quarterback wearing the number 7. Remember what happened when the Browns passed on Roethlisberger? He was just as dedicated to destroying the Browns, and he has. I think he's 24-2.
Well, not too hard against the Browns for the last couple of years.
The area in which he played them, yeah. It's a little different now, but it's over his career, the Browns have not been even close to being as good as they are now. And another quick side note, Haskins actually went to high school a half hour or an hour from where he's going to be playing in the NFL. So it's like, you know, his family's close. Everybody's pretty close to DC. So it's like, you know, he's got a pretty good scenario right there.
Living in his mom's basement, comes out, all right, I'm off to go beat the Giants. Wish me luck. Here's your peanut butter and jelly
you know
sandwich,
what?
son.
Maybe save some money, man. You never know. You save some money ahead of time.
I'm just a rookie. I only have $1.
All right. All right, we're going to go on to the last quarterback, and then we're going to get to the rest of our draft stuff. Drew Lock getting picked in the second round by the Denver Broncos. Not the quarterback that Toby was thinking, but they did eventually go with a quarterback, and they obviously, I believe, got the third best available quarterback there. We'll have to see if they can make something work out of him. It is a question of whether or not how much playing time he's going to get versus Joe Flacco as well. But Toby, we'll start with you again. What were you surprised by this pick? Do you think Drew Lock could be pretty good with the Broncos?
Well, I wasn't really surprised. The only thing I was surprised that he was still available in the second round when the Broncos were in the clock. I think that even surprised the Broncos. But like I said, I'm not sure about Drew Lock in Denver. It's probably one of the stadiums that is affected by the weather a lot. And I've said it before, Drew Lock has not the biggest hands, so that might hurt him in bad weather, cold weather in the winter up there at the Mile High Stadium. Of course, they get snow early or cold weather early. So I'm not too sure about it. I mean, he's an upgrade to Joe Flacco in my mind. That's for sure. And I think he will win the starting job at least after a couple of weeks in the regular season because Joe Flacco is just tanking up there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I wasn't tweeting that much during the draft, but I think I sent out 2 tweets, and one of them was when the Broncos actually picked up Drew Lock, that they finally got a quarterback, which I was preaching over the entire time we did mock drafts or anything about the draft on this podcast. So I love that they picked a quarterback. I personally would have gone with Dwayne Haskins in the first round and wouldn't have traded down to 20. But Noah Fant is giving them a big option as their tight end as a receiver, which will help Drew Lock or Joe Flacco, whoever starts the game, a lot since they lost basically all of their receivers over the last couple of years. So at least they have one target up there. And we know Noah Fant is the better receiver of the 2 Iowa tight ends in TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant coming out of this year's draft. TJ Hawkinson is just a more complete tight end, so he was just on the board a little bit higher than Noah Fant for a lot of people. But I mean, yeah, I love the pick for a quarterback up there, and to have him there in the second round and not spend their first round pick on him. Hey, I mean, even if he does not produce that well, they still did not give up a first round pick for him. So it's a good situation for both of them.
Mm-hmm. Josh, what do you got to add to that?
I think having him go in the second round, I mean, just going off of what we've been talking about over the past few weeks, I think it was probably more fitting to get Drew Lock in the second round when there's all this defensive talent. And I'm glad that like you said, Toby, that the Broncos got a QB because they need one. It's not just as like a necessity, but it's like a backup plan. You know, you don't want to have like some no-name third stringer come in and just kind of botch the rest of the season for you and hope you get a good quarterback next year.
Get Brock Osweiler back on the field.
Osweiler. I remember him. But anyway, you know, I feel bad for Joe Flacco because he got chased out of Baltimore for the exact same thing. He got hurt. Lamar Jackson came in. He got kicked out of Baltimore, went to Denver, and now if he gets hurt, Drew Lock's going to take over, and if Drew Lock does well, Flacco's stuck again.
I don't even think with Denver he has to get hurt. It was just in Baltimore he had to get hurt because he had the standing of the Super Bowl champion there. So in Denver he doesn't have that standing yet with the team. So if he doesn't produce in the first couple of weeks, he's gone, and Drew Lock is going to come in and steal his job.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you got anything else to add there, Josh?
I just really wish that they drafted somebody with the last name Key so they could have the draft under lock and key. There you go.
Toby, I don't know if you could tell me this. I'm gonna try to figure this one out. Do you know who the Broncos drafted in the second round right before him? I believe it was an offensive lineman.
Let me check.
Because I know it was Noah Fant. I know they traded back.
It was Noah Fant and Dalton Reisner. Offensive tackle out of Kansas State.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. So again, yeah, they filled two exact needs to what we expected them to do. They got a receiving tight end, they got a tackle to protect him, and then they got Drew Lock. I think it was a great setup for Denver. Obviously, Drew Lock's not the most complete quarterback, as you're aware. And Toby mentioned it. His hands are really small. And I mean, we hate to like keep bringing that up, but that is a thing that, you know, especially if you're in colder weather and if you're in weather that has a lot of precipitation, like it does up there in Denver, Mile High City, it does affect your hands a lot. And it is one of those things that, you know, I think he's going to have to get used to, because playing at Mizzou, you know, where it's a little bit warmer, a little bit longer into the season than when you get towards like late November, early December, then it starts to get cold. Whereas in the Mile High City, it could be mid-September and it's already getting cold, and basically that's almost your entire season, basically at that point. So it's like, it is going to be one of those things where how's he going to adjust? But I looked more into his numbers, and I was amazed to find that he set the record for most touchdowns in a season in the SEC at 44 back in 2017. Like, I was kind of impressed by that. I was like, I didn't realize that he was able to throw touchdowns the way he does. I think his accuracy is sometimes underrated. I think he's got a great arm. He's a very intelligent guy. And you saw he was really hyped up when he saw he was going to Denver. And it was an obvious steal for the Broncos to get that quarterback in the second round. Not very often you hear the third quarterback overall on the draft board is available in the second round. That usually doesn't happen. So, again, it was a great pickup by Denver. Wish all the best to Drew Lock. All right. Now we're going to move on to another part of the draft, and we're both going to all three of us are going to talk about which team had the best first round in the draft. And I'm going to start this one off. I'll just start this one off, and then we'll go to Josh and then Toby. I think you guys might agree with me, but I have a different opinion on this. I think it's the Washington Redskins, because not only did they get Dwayne Haskins, which I continued to talk about for the longest time, when they got the Colts pick at number 26, they got Montez Sweat, who a lot of people said was going to be a top 15 pick. So again, another successful defensive player to help you gain a pass rush. I think that they hit two of their three biggest needs right on the head when it came to the first round of the draft. They obviously needed a pass rusher because that's been something that they've been lacking for a long time, and they easily got their franchise quarterback. I would give their first round an easy A for what they did in that first round. They made their picks count, and they didn't waste them at all. So Redskins are my easy favorite for the first round. Josh, who won the first round in your opinion?
For me, it was the Green Bay Packers because they got a good defensive picks, a couple of them, yeah. They got Rashawn Gary and Darnell Savage. And I know that they took Savage before earlier because apparently Indianapolis was looking at Darnell Savage, and the Packers wanted to snag him before he fell back that far. But the Packers this offseason have made a lot of moves in free agency and now just padding it with the with picking Rashawn Gary and Darnell Savage, because last year they lacked a pass rush. It was only Clay Matthews and Daniels, I believe. Yeah. And their safety work, it still needs to have a lot of work after they lost Clinton Dix in the back and stuff like that. So getting Darnell Savage, a guy that knows how to cover and hit hard, he has the perfect last name for that, for playing football.
I was just about to say that too.
So, yeah, that's why I believe that the Packers had the best first round, in my opinion.
Yeah, and before we get to you, Toby, I will say that, even if the Green Bay Packers don't turn out the way we think we are, you got to admit, just the moves they made on defense were just amazing this offseason. They've just filled every position on their defense with stud talent. Even if some of those players are older, I mean, they got that combination of really young guys and really old guys, but that combination, just the talent-wise, it's spectacular. I love what they did. Toby, go ahead.
For me, it's between three teams really, and I think one of them is really gonna surprise you guys. First off, I gotta agree with Derek. The Redskins did a great job. They got their quarterback, they got an edge rusher, two positions that they needed. The second team, only had one pick, and that were the Jacksonville Jaguars. Getting Josh Allen with the 7th overall pick. I don't know how it happened, but somehow it happened. Josh Allen fell to them at number 7.
Well, I can tell you why it happened. It was John Gruden.
Yeah.
John Gruden.
I mean, it's both Grudens between with Tampa Bay picking, Tampa Bay is his former team with Arians now. And Devin White, picking Devin White, an actual linebacker before the overall consensus best linebacker in this draft. I don't know how you do it, but apparently the Bucs didn't want Josh Allen there either. I can't really understand that.
They wanted a more bona fide middle linebacker rather than a guy that, could blitz off the edge, I guess.
Well, they had a big need there too. Let's be honest.
They did, yeah.
So
they had a need at every position.
I would have been scared about that for the Saints if they would have picked Josh Allen. Oh God, I would have been scared of those Buccaneers. I'll tell you that. But now coming to my surprise pick at number 3, we have talked about this team already. It's actually the New York Giants. They had 3 picks there. Okay, take out Daniel Jones, but they filled 2 big needs with 17, picking Dexter Lawrence, and then getting a cornerback, which they desperately needed after trading Eli Apple to the Saints, in DeAndre Baker with the 13th overall pick. So take away the first pick that did not happen. Daniel Jones is not with the Giants.
I can't do it, man. It's I can't do that. I mean, I know obviously you're right. The other 2 picks that they got, you've been preaching it for the longest time. the defensive tackle position and the corner position, the two positions that they absolutely needed. Definitely, you're right. They hit a pretty good hit on those two positions. I know, but I can't get over the 6th pick because you could have gone with anybody else.
Yeah,
you could have gone with anybody else.
It's true, but I mean, if I'm just looking at to have 3 picks in the first round, first of all, is pretty damn impressive. But just take out 1 pick, just take 2 picks of them. That would have been a pretty impressive draft in the first round by the Giants.
True. All right, so we're gonna skip the Clelin Ferrell pick at number 4. I think we can all that it was a huge surprise that he got picked over Josh Allen, as Toby just suggested. But the last thing we're going to talk about for the draft, then we're going to move to our next subject. We're going to do a quick draft overview for our teams, the Colts and the Saints. Toby, we're going to go ahead and start with your Saints. Give us a quick overview and what kind of draft grade you would give them, what you wish you could have seen, anything else.
Well, first off, we did a segment, what we want to see and don't want to see out of our teams doing in that draft. And one thing I said that I definitely don't want to see is, first off, the Saints trading up, which they did for 4 out of their 5 picks in this draft. And for the love of it, do not trade a high pick of next year's draft. Well, guess what? They traded away the 2nd round pick of next year's draft to go up in the 2nd round. I love the player. Eric McCoy, definitely center after Max Unger retired last season, or in the offseason. Definite need at center. Eric McCoy is a special guy. He only allowed 1 sack his entire career at Texas A&M in college. So pretty much exactly what the Saints needed with an older quarterback like Drew Brees. I love the player, but please, why are you trading a 2nd rounder for next year's draft? There's so much offensive talent in next year's draft. There is so much talent going to be available in the 2nd round, even if it is a lower 2nd round draft pick. I just don't get it. But
and real quick before I let you finish, Toby.
Yeah.
Have we come to like a thing? I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately. Is it like it's almost kind of becoming a thing where trading away a 2nd round pick is almost as strong as a 1st round pick nowadays? It really is. It feels that way.
It really is, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, did you see how much talent? I was gonna say, did you see how much talent fell into the 2nd round?
That's true.
Yeah, there was so much
20
talent.
Picks of that, there's so much talent left.
And
yeah,
I mean, I was kind of low key hoping if they trade away a 2nd round draft pick and trade up, I would have loved to see them do what the Browns did and get Greedy Williams. If they would have gotten Greedy Williams, that defensive backfield, that would have been scary. But they just traded up for, I'm saying just, let's put that in air quotes, just Eric McCoy. But then in the 4th round, I don't know how that happened, but Chauncey Gardner-Johnson out of Florida somehow fell in the 4th round. I mean, that is kind of exactly what the Saints needed in their defensive backfield. Safety, slot cornerback hybrid player. I know they're getting Patrick Robinson back. He's not the youngest anymore, but that's the one thing the Saints lacked at last season, to defend against those slot receivers, those tight ends. That's exactly what Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is going to bring to the Saints. I believe he's going to be that guy that they wanted Kenny Vaccaro to be. I didn't really want to see him go. A lot of people said that Kenny Vaccaro was a bad safety. Now he's with the Tennessee Titans. But I really saw the potential in what he brought to the team, because he was that aggressive upfront guy as a safety that was going with the tight end or was tackling the running back in the run game. That's exactly the guy that they got in the 4th round here. 6th round, Saquon Hampton, also safety out of Rutgers. Not really too sure about him. I think he's probably more of a special teams play. I don't think he's gonna see much of the field as a starter. And that's 7th round. I mean, usually I'm not getting excited about 7th round draft picks, but the Saints had 2 7th round draft picks, and the first pick was I don't know how to pronounce the name. I think it's Ellie St. Mac out of Notre Dame at the tight end. They needed a tight end, and usually when you're saying, okay, they drafted a tight end in the 7th round, he's not going to be around for the regular season. But Ellie St. Mac was the number 1 tight end coming out of high school in the entire U.S. He just had a couple of bad years, or he had a roller coaster of a career in college in Notre Dame. I think a lot of that came also with the quarterback play at Notre Dame. But when you have a guy as accurate as Drew Brees thrown to the guy, I think he can come back to being a more dominant player. He's probably not going to be the best guy as he was in high school, but I think he's going to be on the 53-man roster at the start of the season. And to finish off the Saints draft with only 5 players, the last pick was Caden Ellis, outside linebacker out of Idaho. I don't see him to play much as a linebacker. He's more of a hybrid, as the Saints are going for a lot more. He's more that type of player like a Taysom Hill is in the offense, but I see Caden Ellis to actually play a lot of offensive snaps as tight end as well, because first off, he's a little bit undersized, underweight for being an edge rusher in defense, but this guy actually ran a sub-6'5" shuttle drill at the combine. So this guy is fast. He can cut. He can catch. He did it in college as well. That's just the player the Saints want to throw off opposing teams. So expect to see Caden Ellis, at least in the preseason, see them try him out as an offensive player as well. And if he can show what they want in the preseason, to see that out of him in the regular season, to see a defensive player play regularly on offense. So let's move on, guys. Go with your Colts.
All right, Josh, go ahead.
Well, as much as I didn't want to see us trade out of the first round, I kind of understood, because all the talent is right there in the 2nd and 3rd round.
Mm-hmm.
Because, in all honesty, all that was up front was, great talent, but it was all mostly names, Like the first 5 picks, that was like true, like, I guess, like much needed talent needed, and followed by, aside from Dwayne Haskins, a few more right there, but everything that everybody needed was in the 2nd and 3rd round. And so when I saw the Colts trade out of the first pick, I'm like, oh, great, missed on a pass rusher. But what did we get? Another 2nd rounder in the draft, and then a 2nd rounder next year from the Redskins. So when I saw that it was Rock Ya-Sin for the first pick in the 2nd round, I was actually happy for that, because I'm like, we needed a cornerback, because that's our weakest strength most of the time right there, besides not having a pass rusher. And then you got I'm going to miss
Benagoo.
I think is
Benagoo.
Yeah,
Benagoo. That dude looks like a monster. Like another, and then I know later there was a guy from another like small college, like in the middle of nowhere, where you could actually see a freaking McDonald's in the back.
E.J. Speed from Talton State.
Speed. It's one of those guys that like film doesn't pop to you, but when you look at just his body being 6'3", 260 pounds, and being able to run the way he does, how long he is, how athletic he is, it's like, it's another one of those picks that's like, if you find a way to get him in the right system and in the right spots, this dude can be spectacular.
Because remember, Darius Leonard was from a small college of South Carolina State. So,
and guess who EJ Speed most represents in the NFL? Darius Leonard. The ESPN even did that.
Yeah.
Like,
But the one I was actually more excited about was the Paris Campbell pick.
yes.
Oh yeah.
Because speed kills, and the Colts want to make sure you get that, you know?
Mhm.
And I should tell you my draft the group chat I was in, when they saw that pick, they're going like, that's a deadly combination of Andrew Luck and Paris Campbell.
Mhm.
And I think even
Yes.
Ballard knew it too, because everybody's like,
Yes.
oh, get a tall guy. No.
Frank Reich was so happy after that
Yeah.
pick. He was
Speed
so happy.
kills, and that's what's going to happen.
Yes.
And also, side note, Reggie Wayne still torching the Titans even after he retired.
And Pat McAfee too.
Oh damn, that was
No,
the
like the
best announcement.
The Colts announcements were easily the best thing ever, because it's like, as Tennessee Titans fans, you knew it had to be coming. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Seth, but you knew that had to be coming at some point.
You know what
right?
that reminds me of? That's the equivalent of the quiet kid finally getting up and roasting the teacher
Yes.
or something like that, you know?
Yes.
But all in all, aside from last year's draft, I really enjoyed this one because it addressed so many different needs on our team. Like, have you noticed how many, like, it was a linebacker, like, almost every round?
Every other round, it seemed like.
Every other round,
Yeah.
we had a linebacker.
/ edge rusher.
We also
Yeah.
did get a offensive lineman for depth.
Yeah.
So
They actually got 2 later in the draft. I mean, I don't think, Josh, you can agree with this, that the majority of these picks were not starter picks. They're more of just depth picks. You know, stuff to do some competition. Obviously, we want these guys on the roster, but I think it's competition to fill backup roles in the back of the draft mainly. I mean, I'll start from the top. Rocky Sin, that's a very solid corner. A lot of people even said Rocky Sin has the ability to creep his way into the first round. I mean, he's not as athletic as some of these other corners are, but when his intellectual ability to know where the ball is and his ability to just hit people, because he is not afraid to hit somebody and be aggressive. Remember, he was a 2-time state wrestling champ in high school. So he credits that for why he's able to tackle people so well, because he's used to grappling people. I mean, that's great. That's exactly what the Colts need. We've always been saying for years, we've been preaching tackling, but it hasn't happened. Chris Ballard comes along and finally starts to get better. You have a guy that could easily play slot corner, right? Strong in the middle, won't let anyone roam free in the middle, and he's willing to sacrifice his body to hit someone in the middle. That's the kind of guy that you want as that position. Maybe a corner number 3, compete with Quincy Wilson at that spot. I can easily see that. Ben, that's another name. And that was another name that I was kind of like surprised at. And then I started looking at the film. You see how aggressive he is at rushing the passer. He does an amazing job of getting in the backfield and making plays in the backfield. It's basically what he is. He's a guy that disrupts the play in the backfield. And, you know, the Colts have been searching for that pass rush. Maybe he's that guy that could be the next one. And that Paris Campbell pick, I said it. I wanted either Terry McLaurin or Paris Campbell, because those guys are just capable of changing games in ways that doesn't happen. So the Colts go out and get the most athletic wide receiver other than DK Metcalf out there at the 59th pick. And that was awesome. I was so happy. I was on my way to see Avengers to hear my brother say we picked him, because Josh, you said it right before the draft announcement that was on my phone, and Mitchell was just sitting there like, dude, you're not going to believe who we just got. Josh just told me. And then I hear it, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. So that was an amazing pick. That Colts wide receiver group is going to be scary. Scary. Might be the most underrated wide receiver out there. T.Y. Hilton kills everybody. Eric Ebron had 14 touchdowns last year. Paris Campbell's now going to be one of the fastest guys in the NFL. You got Deion Kane. You got Devin Funchess that you just signed. I mean, that's going to be a great offense. And then, like you said, Josh, it's just every other pick, it was more of like, you know, safety. There was a linebacker. There's another guy that can play. A couple of these guys at linebacker could play the hybrid position of defensive end, edge rush, and linebacker. I mean, honestly, it's just more of it was the speed and athleticism that they were trying to find. And they certainly did that. it wasn't the most amazing draft to me. You know, I gave this a B plus for the Colts. I mean, it wasn't anything outstanding, but it was solid. It was exactly what the Colts were trying to do, and that was gain speed and athleticism. They stuck to that game plan. They executed it perfectly. And, you know, Colts fans will probably hate me for saying, oh, you know, all these other people are giving them A's and you're giving them a B plus. Well, you know, I'm a tad bit more critical than some media because I think the media thinks that they owe the Colts an apology for how they mistreated us last year. But I mean, again, it was a solid draft. I'm not going to complain. I trust in Chris Ballard and what he's doing.
Yeah, and
I just say that.
For the Saints, just real quick, I forgot to grade the actual draft, to give an actual draft grade. For me, the Saints get a B minus. I think for the actual players, I give them actually a B to B plus, but I take them down a little bit for giving up that second rounder next year. That's the one thing that I'll put some points off from the Saints. And actually, before we move on from the draft, I just want to give one little shout out to a new Tampa Bay Buccaneers player drafted in the 6th round of that draft. Scott Miller out of BGSU is in the NFL.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. Yes. Let's go Falcons, man. That's awesome, dude. Yeah.
So for us, that is amazing.
He's got amazing speed. Like, a lot of people don't realize that he has such good ability to make plays with his feet once he catches the ball. I mean, sure, he may not get a lot of playing time right away, but I hope that, you know, if he continues to work on his catching mechanics and in the preseason, you know, kind of balls out, shows that he can do a few things. Maybe he slips his way into the wide receiver group.
Yeah, they don't have too many receivers there anyway, so.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're right, Toby. That's awesome. Yeah, it was great for him. All right, so now we're going to move on to another topic. We're going to talk about the Tyreek Hill situation. Everyone has kind of heard what's been going on. The case between him and his girlfriend or his fiance and his 3-year-old son. It got reopened again after some audio tapes were discovered of him talking about potentially hurting his fiance and hurting his son in several different ways. So I told you guys before this that I had a clip I wanted to play for you and a clip for the audience as well. Now, to give this video some context, there's a guy named Zach Gelb. He's a radio sports talk show host on CBS Sports. He has his own show, and he was on yesterday, and he was talking to some fans about the Tyreek Hill situation, getting calls in. And the last guy he talks to about this, he really did not like what this guy led with. And I think you guys will agree with this. I listened to this video so many times, and I'm trying to just hold back the anger in me. I'm going to play this video for you guys. Just give it, and be sure anyone that watches this, check out Zach Gelb. He is great the way he was able to keep his calm under this. Believe me, he went crazy, but he could have gone much worse. Take a listen.
Take one more before the break. Robert in Georgia. Robert, go ahead.
Zach, just let me ask you, do you have any kids?
I don't, no.
Okay, well then, for you to come out and say an innocent child, you don't know what you're talking about. All kids are a problem.
He's 3 years old, Robert!
They could be a problem. Now, the thing
So hold on. So you're saying then Tyreek Hill, if the kid's crying, that Tyreek Hill should hit the kid with the belt?
I got the belt when I was growing up.
Well, you know what, Robert? I don't want to hear it anymore. Idiot. Just because, and you know what? You should not get hit with the belt, and that doesn't make it right. Oh, yeah, it's the 3-year-old's fault. What are you, a moron? Robert, lose the number, never call me again. There's no reason for a 25-year-old man to hit a child with a belt and his fist. Take one more, Robert.
All right, so that was the audio for that. You guys can obviously hear immediately when that guy tried to even give a hint to saying that 3-year-old deserved what he got. You saw Zach and probably what the rest of us thought was complete and utter crap. That video is really not what we're going to be discussing here, but it kind of brings some context into this. Toby, we'll start with you. There's been a lot of people that have been saying if this stuff like goes any deeper, Tyreek Hill should deserve a ban from the NFL completely, never allowed access to anything NFL ever again. Do you think that's a fair punishment for this?
I don't think it doesn't have to get any deeper than that. I mean, you have, with the audio that came out during the draft or just before the draft, it's definite proof that he hurt at least his child and maybe even his fiance at some point. And if that's true, he definitely should at least get banned from the NFL for life, and he should look at some serious time in jail. If you're hitting a 3-year-old kid that is yours, it doesn't matter if it's yours or not, don't get me wrong here, but
right.
If you are hitting a 3-year-old kid, why would you hit a 3-year-old kid? There is other ways of punishment, and there is nothing that kid could have done to nearly deserve anything like that. And
Right.
I know Adrian Peterson, he hit his kid as well with a belt. He was suspended for 1 year. But Tyreek Hill, Adrian Peterson, that was too soft of a punishment. Tyreek Hill should get banned forever in the NFL. He should get at least 1 year in jail for that. He should get one of the worst cellmates there is in the American prison anywhere. This dude should feel how his kid felt when he hurt his kid. When he laid a hand on him, he deserves to feel how that kid felt. And I mean, it's tough enough to have a grown man hit a kid if it's just a normal grown-up, but you're a professional athlete. You do not have a right to lay a hand on a woman or a kid whatsoever. There are other ways.
Yeah. Josh, what do you got about this?
Is audio different from video?
I mean,
Because
no,
the Chiefs had no problem cutting Kareem Hunt after a video just came out, which, Kareem Hunt, completely different story, removed on it. How come Tyreek Hill wasn't cut right after that audio came out?
Because he's their only receiver.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently winning football games is more important than the safety of a child.
Now,
Shame on the Chiefs.
Now, we're not saying immediately that the Chiefs won't do this, because, I mean, obviously they have suspended him indefinitely. He's not allowed it until they figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
But you are right, Josh, that this seems a little sudden.
If they ban Tyreek Hill from the NFL, it's good, one part. The other part is it's going to open up a whole new case on whether or not they should kick out, other offenders of abuse that did abuse in the NFL. Like Kareem Hunt, Adrian Peterson. Maybe they shall get banned and have no chance to get in the NFL Hall of Fame. Because that's just going to open up a whole new door if they decide to ban Tyreek Hill for this. And they should, but they also need to address all the other NFL players who did horrific things like that to another human being, but apparently the NFL and almost, I'm not going to say all NFL teams, but there's some football teams, college included, that will look the other way just to win a damn game, and it's a shame. It truly is. It should. Just the fact you put winning a football game over the safety of another human being is just the worst. You're more concerned about winning a game that could either get you a championship or not. Championships, they're there for 1 year. You can remember it, but it's there for 1 year. The effect that you put on somebody after you beat them or do anything like that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. So just, man, I'm getting too aggravated. Derek, you keep going.
And I'll try my best here to keep myself down. Believe me, I really lost my sense of control after hearing that video the first time yesterday. I mean, Tyreek really does need a long look in the mirror here. And Toby's right. If he does go through the criminal system, believe me, there are a lot of tough dudes in there that do not care what you did. You touch a child, even in prison, they have morals. And there are certain guys that do not take kindly to touching 3-year-olds. Okay? And because, I mean, Tyreek got lucky the first time. He abused his girlfriend when she was pregnant. He kicked her, almost killed the baby right there and then. We already know that happened before. And then he gets a pass on that. You know, he served his punishment. He the NFL, you know, continued to be this huge success. And now he's doing this again. I don't understand. And then I don't even know what like the fiance's role is in this. Because like the fiance helped try to cover up the time that he was being abused the first time. She tried to cover him up. There's even in the tapes that show I've done a lot for you to try and keep you out of trouble. And now all of a sudden, my 3-year-old is telling me that daddy put bruises on me. Put bruises. A belt and a freaking punch to the face and chest. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. There's a huge difference between a little spanking whenever she, like, you know, does all this other stuff than actually physically beating your 3-year-old son. 3 years old. That kid can't even fight back. That kid can't even fight back. At least with the woman, she can fight back. I mean, obviously it's not okay either way, but you're hitting something that can't even protect himself. And it's yours. You're right, Josh. It's like, it's yours. I don't understand this. It's like, it's the lowest of the low. If this does not get a very substantial punishment, then I don't know. I can't support the Chiefs if they decide to bring this man back onto the football field. I don't know if I can. I really don't know if I can, because it's like, I mean, it's proven that these two had this conversation about what they did. It's proven. There's no questioning it. I mean, and they're still trying to go through the tapes to make sure it's actually the truth that he actually did this, because, you know, audio just says one thing. They obviously either both of them could be lying, or we don't know all the evidence yet. But this is a very emotional thing. And, you know, we all kind of said that same thing about, you know, what Kareem Hunt did and all these other players. You know, obviously domestic violence is one real bad thing out there, but when you could do that to your 3-year-old child, and then not to mention tell your fiance that you should be afraid of me too, like, how can you even think? How can you even live with yourself with that? To know that the two people that you love, or they love you, or whatever, you could install so much fear in them. How? I don't understand it, man.
I mean, can you even call it love at that point? I think for his fiance, it's just fear.
Yeah. And now it's like, for the 3-year-old, what's that 3-year-old's going through his mind right now? Like, can he even even look at his dad?
Yeah,
I don't think he can.
He's damaged for life, that's for sure.
He's damaged.
Just imagine a 3-year-old saying that, essentially looking at your father and just saying that my dad doesn't love me, he only hits me. You know, just imagine that. That's horrible.
And I mean, even at our age, imagine getting punched in the face and the chest by a pro athlete. And now imagine that being a 3-year-old. It's
amazing you didn't kill him.
Yeah, that's just crazy. And for the point of the NFL suspension, I think it has to be substantial, because if you're giving him a 1-year ban, you're seeing it with Adrian Peterson right now. It's been 4 years ago. Even after 2 years ago, nobody thought about Adrian Peterson being that kind of guy anymore. And I think somebody brought up a rumor that he still hits his kid with a belt last season, and the media totally went off on the guy who brought it up, that Adrian Peterson's changed and everything, that there's no point in bringing that up and bringing the history of him up. If you are hitting a child once, this shit should be over your head your entire life. No matter if you have changed or not, this should be over your head until the day you die. And this should be the same with Tyreek Hill.
Exactly. And, again, I'm sure that there will continue to be a lot more things going through the Chiefs and the NFL. I mean, we've seen players get suspended for a decent amount of times for a lot less than this. And and you're right, Toby. Adrian Peterson got a 1-year suspension for this, for that same exact thing. Although this time you got actual evidence to prove it. You have audio recordings, and not only are you talking about child abuse amongst one of them, you have domestic violence against them. Starting a panic. It's like there's a lot more into this than just what happened with Adrian Peterson. And if Adrian Peterson gets a 1 year, I can't imagine what Tyreek Hill's about to get for this. And for anyone out there to say, or to even throw a shadow of a doubt that this 3-year-old deserved any of that, is out of their freaking minds. Out of it. I please tell me, anyone that watches this video says that this kid deserved it. Please talk to me. I want to find out why you're so messed up. And honestly, I really want to, because I don't understand what any kind of punishment a 3-year-old could get. I don't know what he could have possibly done to deserve even a hint of that.
I will tell you this before we move on. If the NFL mishandles this in any way, the amount of blowback against the league will be tremendous.
Oh, yeah.
If you thought it was bad, with Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson, when you hear that you should be afraid of me, that is essentially, and if they only like they did 8 games, like with what they did with Kareem Hunt, the amount of blowback against the NFL, they're going to lose a lot of money.
Because they're going to lose some fans.
Yeah.
Either. Yeah.
And it could cost Roger Goodell his job, which some people might be happy for, because people can't stand Roger Goodell. Let's move on before we get too angry.
Yeah, we get too angry here. All right, so we're going to move on to a little bit better of a topic here, and we're going to discuss our top 5 teams for each of us. The NFL had come out with the early Super Bowl predictions, and so now we're going to move on to are the top 5 teams in the league. Toby, we're going to start with you. Please give us your top 5.
All right. I'm going to start from the top. Number 1, I gotta give it to you. It's the Indianapolis Colts right now. Number 1,
Really?
Colts.
All right. Okay.
Number 2 team right now. I'd still put the LA Rams. If they get back all their injured player that they had at the end of last season, they are still the team they were in the regular season, and not the team that we saw in the Super Bowl. At number 3, New Orleans Saints. They are pretty much where they were last season, have improved at a couple of spots, but I'm curious to see what the new players can actually do on the field. I don't think they're quite past the Rams yet at this point. At number 4, I'd probably put the Chicago Bears, just solely on their defense. I don't think they have slowed down by much up there, and their offense as well. They still have most of the players they had last season, so Bears are a definite contender in the NFC North. And at number 5, I had 2 teams that I wanted to put there at the end. It was the New England Patriots, just because of the duo of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick up there. I don't see them going anywhere this season with that duo, especially with Bill Belichick still as their head coach. And just if you're curious, the team that I was debating at number 5 was I know you're gonna laugh at me. It's the Cleveland Browns. I think they're up there yet.
Yeah, I am laughing at you. All right. Just because I'm curious, why the Colts at number 1, dude?
They're just the most complete team, and after that draft, adding, like you said, you didn't add that many starters. You definitely added Ruckusin, which you needed. You added Paris Campbell, a second wide receiver after T.Y. Hilton. But most of all, you added the depth that you needed. And that's the one part that the Colts were missing to be that top team. And they definitely did this offseason and did it in the draft. So Colts, for me, got those spots ahead of all the other teams.
All right. Well, I can appreciate the Colts love, Toby. Josh, go ahead with your top 5.
All right, I'm going to do the opposite of Toby. I'm going to start 5-1. So 5, I have the Green Bay Packers. You know, they had a solid free agency. They still need to work on their offense because Aaron Rodgers is still, you know, the guy. But they're there. So I'm going to give them the number 5. Number 4, I have I had a more realistic approach. I had the Colts at number 4. You know, and I think it's mostly because it's a steady build. We're still working there. We're not complete yet, but we're almost there. It's like we added backplating to strengthen like a tank or something like that.
Yeah.
So we just need probably one more solid draft like this one. It will be set. But I got them at number 4. Number 3, I actually have the Chargers, the other LA team.
Okay.
Because they also seem very complete. I know that they added a few pieces to the defense, and I believe it was an offensive line in the first round, wasn't it? Or was it?
Let me check that. Continue on. I'll have that up.
All right. Number 2, I have the Rams, the other LA team as well. It's just they're getting there. I know everything else is there, slowly getting there. Yada yada yada. Number 1, I'd actually say, man, this one's hard because I'm gonna say that I'm gonna take a long shot here, and you're gonna laugh at me for this one. The Cleveland Browns at number 1. I'm a believer. They look just as complete. They look just as complete as the Indianapolis Colts, and I would not be surprised if it's an AFC Championship game between the Colts and the Browns this year.
Well,
I put it. I thought out of the box. You thought in an entire different zip code there.
Yeah.
Y'all are just like killing me with this. Holy crap. Okay. Anyone that watches this might like mine a little bit better. Maybe they come more realistic. I don't know, but I appreciate the love on both sides, y'all. But all right, let's get to my top 5 here. 5, 6, and 7 are all pretty close for me, but right now at number 5, I'm going Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles got some help at on the defensive line, got some help in the secondary, like I've been saying that they needed. They got running back help. You know, they obviously have struggled with running back depth recently, but I think that just with the direction they're headed, if they keep Carson Wentz there, I think that team is just so well complete that I think that as long as they stay healthy, they're a very solid team with a very good roster. And number 4, I agree with Josh, the Indianapolis Colts. It's funny to think that the Colts are actually still rebuilding. Like, that's the funny thing is we're a rebuilding team, but people have us in the top 5. That's the amazing thing is that there are still some pieces that we need to work out, but I don't need to really mention any more of what I've already said. They got Andrew Luck, a top 5 quarterback. They got the top 3 offensive line. They got an improved wide receiver and running back class. They got an improved secondary, and they got 2 All-Pros in Darius Leonard and Quentin Nelson. And with the additions that they put at the defensive line, that obviously is going to help them. And then with number 3, I have the Los Angeles Rams. I still think that the Rams just offensively are just so much more dominant than anyone else out there. And obviously, Aaron Donald being on that defense just gives you an edge that nobody can make up for. So that's why I have the Rams at number 3. And Toby will like this one. Number 2, New Orleans. I think that, again, one missed call away from being in the Super Bowl. And I think mainly your biggest loss was Mark Ingram and your second running back. But I think that with the additions that you've gotten on offense to help Drew Brees with his receiving and, some of the obviously your first pick in the draft, which is a center, to help with that offensive line that's already pretty good, and the defense already being as good as it is, I think New Orleans is going to have a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to show why they deserve to be the number 1 team. And I hate to do this again. I hate to do it, but I think you guys know where I'm going with number 1 here. It's the Super Bowl champs, New England. I mean, I just can't throw them off to the side. I say it every freaking year that I can't seem to throw them away until they actually give me a reason to throw them away. I know they've lost a lot of their receivers. I know, but they've also acquired a few new offensive players. They still have the genius in Bill Belichick, who obviously brings great strategies and systems every day, every single freaking game. They seem to have an answer for everything. So again, that's my top 5. Philly number 5, Colts number 4, Rams number 3, New Orleans number 2, and New England number 1.
All right. I got 2 things. First off, Josh, to your LA Chargers, they drafted Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle out of Notre Dame in the first round. And yeah, Derek, I kind of disagree with the Eagles. I don't see the Eagles that high anymore this season. I think I'm gonna give a prediction for this season already. It's way too early, I know, but I'm gonna say the Eagles will finish 3rd in the NFC East this season.
Behind, I'm assuming, the Cowboys and the Redskins.
Yes, but the Eagles will finish 3rd in the NFC East this season.
We'll have to see how that is at the end of the season, man. It's a better prediction than putting Cleveland at number 1. I'll tell you that right now.
That's true. Yeah.
Yes, I'm looking at you.
Believe
crazy.
Believe
Cleveland, this is for you. God, man, that is, and to remind people who watch this, he's not even a Cleveland Browns fan, and this is what's coming out of that man's mouth. He's not even a Browns fan. Like, that's the funny thing. Even Chase has more realistic expectations for the Browns than you, and he's a diehard. Because last year, he said that they would be lucky to win 4 games, and I told him they could win at least 5 with the schedule that they have and having Baker Mayfield what they had. So I was right there, but good God, man. I really do hope, though, that the Browns and the Colts face each other in the AFC Championship. I mean, they are having joint practices to start the training camp. Yeah. So, that would be awesome, because those are 2 really solid teams that are going to get good competition early. Yeah. So that's exactly what you want.
Also, my prediction during the draft day 1, right after the Paris Campbell pick, I predicted this Colts and Browns being in the AFC Championship this year.
And we will have to wait at least another 7 months before we can even make a close prediction as to whether that's
and for everybody listening, you're gonna get a bunch of predictions out of us over the next couple of months until the season starts.
And then Toby's gonna have to be the one to remember it. Toby's gonna have to be the one. He's gonna look back through all the film and everything.
Oh, I believe some people that are listening or watching us right now, they will remember and they will remind us.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I can name one person right now.
Yeah.
All right, so that's all we have for this one. Thank you guys so much for doing this one. I haven't been this excited for a podcast in a while, to be honest. A lot of emotion, a lot of quality content to talk about here this week. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe onto our YouTube channel. Be sure to check us out on Spotify as well. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at T3DS_NFL. Be sure to follow us all on Twitter and our YouTubes as well. And as always, guys, peace.
See ya.
Later.